The stroller was broken, just like they said I was. I stared at the twisted metal frame sitting in my living room, one wheel completely detached, the fabric torn in 3 places. The gift tag still dangled from the handle. For Emma. Hope this works better than everything else in your life. Love, Sarah. My sister's laughter still echoed in my ears from 20 minutes ago, when she'd wheeled this piece of junk through my front door with that trademark smirk. It fits her life perfectly, she'd announced to the room full of baby shower guests, alone and falling apart. The worst part? My mother had nodded in agreement. She's lucky she even got invited, Mom had whispered to Mrs. Henderson from next door, not bothering to lower her voice. I'm 32 years old, 7 months pregnant with my first child, and I still let them treat me like I'm the family disappointment. Maybe because, for the longest time, I believed I was. Growing up, I was always the afterthought. When Sarah won the spelling bee in 3rd grade, Mum threw her a party. When I won the state science fair in 8th grade, Mum said she was too tired to celebrate. Sarah got a car for her 16th birthday. I got a lecture about responsibility and a bus pass. The pattern never changed. Sarah's high school graduation was a family affair with dinner at the fancy steakhouse downtown. Mine was acknowledged with a card Mum picked up at the grocery store checkout line. When Sarah got engaged to her college boyfriend, Mum immediately started planning the wedding of the century. When I got engaged to David 3 years ago, her first question was whether we'd set a date that wouldn't conflict with Sarah's anniversary. I used to think maybe if I tried harder, achieved more, proved my worth somehow, things would be different. So I worked, God, how I worked. Straight A's through college, full scholarship to grad school, landed a job at one of the biggest tech companies in the city. But every accomplishment was met with the same lukewarm response, the same sense that nothing I did would ever be quite good enough. The day I called to tell them I was pregnant, I'd actually been excited. Naive enough to think this might finally be the thing that brought us together. A grandchild, family legacy, something that would make me matter. Finally, my mother had said, her voice flat over the phone. Something went right in your life. Not congratulations, not excitement about becoming a grandmother, just relief that her disappointing daughter had finally done something normal. David had been furious when I told him about that conversation. He'd wanted to call them himself, set them straight about how incredible I was, how lucky they were to have me. But I begged him not to. Some part of me still held on to this pathetic hope that maybe, just maybe, they'd come around on their own. Which is why I decided to have the baby shower at our house. Maybe if they saw the life David and I had built together, the beautiful home, the successful marriage, they'd finally see me differently. Maybe this baby would be the bridge that connected us. I should have known better. David had to leave for a business trip the morning of the shower, some emergency client meeting in Chicago. He'd kissed me goodbye at 5 a.m., promising to be back by evening, apologizing profusely for the timing. I can reschedule, he'd offered for the 10th time. The Johnson account can wait. No, I'd insisted, rubbing my growing belly. It's just a few hours with family and friends. What could go wrong? Famous last words. The shower had started well enough. My co-workers from the company arrived with beautiful, thoughtful gifts. My college roommate, Janet, flew in from Portland with the most gorgeous handmade baby blanket. My neighbour, Mrs. Chen, brought homemade dumplings and stories about her own children. For a brief moment, surrounded by people who actually cared about me, I felt genuinely happy. Then my family arrived. Mum walked in wearing the same forced smile she'd perfected over the years, the one that said she was doing her duty but not enjoying it. She air-kissed my cheek and immediately started examining my decorations with a critical eye. "These balloons are a bit much, don't you think?" she'd said, gesturing at the soft pink and gold arrangement I'd spent an hour perfecting. Very dramatic. Sarah followed behind her, pushing the broken stroller and grinning like she'd just delivered the punchline to the world's funniest joke. She was glowing in that effortless way she'd always had, her perfectly highlighted hair catching the afternoon light, her designer maternity dress. Yes, maternity dress, because Sarah was pregnant too, just 3 months along, but somehow already more important than my pregnancy, fitting her like it was custom made. "Sorry we're late," Sarah announced, though they were actually right on time. "Had to stop and pick up Emma's gift. Found this gem at a garage sale this morning." The room had gone quiet as she wheeled the obviously broken stroller into the centre of my living room. I felt my cheeks burn as my friends and co-workers stared at the twisted mess of metal and fabric. "It's perfect for her," Sarah continued, her voice carrying that sweet tone that made her cruelest comments sound almost kind. Very authentic to her experience. Janet, bless her heart, tried to salvage the moment. "Oh, that's vintage. How thoughtful." But Sarah wasn't done. "Emma's always been good at making do with broken things," she said, settling into my favourite armchair like she owned the place. "It's actually one of her strengths, taking what nobody else wants and trying to make it work." I wanted to say something, wanted to defend myself, point out the beautiful nursery I'd designed, the career I'd built, the amazing man I'd married. But the words stuck in my throat like they always did. 32 years old, and I still couldn't stand up to my little sister. Mum had spent the rest of the shower making subtle digs disguised as observations. "Emma's always been the independent type," she'd say when someone asked about David's absence. "Used to doing things on her own." When Mrs. Chen complimented our house, Mom added, "Yes, it's very modern. Not really my style, but Emma likes things different." The gift opening had been a special kind of torture. Every beautiful, expensive present from my friends highlighted just how deliberately cheap and thoughtless Sarah's stroller was. When I got to her gift, I tried to smile and thank her, but she just shrugged. "Don't get too excited," she'd said. "It's broken. But hey, maybe David can fix it. He seems like the handy type." More laughter. More agreeing nods from my mother. More burning shame creeping up my neck. The party had ended an hour ago. My friends had all hugged me goodbye, whispering reassurances that I deserved better, that they couldn't believe how my family treated me. Janet had lingered the longest, offering to stay and help clean up, but I'd sent her back to her hotel. I needed to be alone with this mess, this broken gift that felt like a metaphor for everything wrong with my relationship with my family. Now I sat in my pristine living room, surrounded by beautiful gifts from people who actually cared about me, staring at this twisted pile of metal that my sister thought represented my life. The worst part was, looking at it now, I almost believed her. Maybe I was alone and falling apart. Maybe I was just good at making do with broken things. Maybe I'd been fooling myself thinking I deserved better. I heard the garage door open and felt a rush of relief. David was home early. I quickly wiped my eyes and tried to arrange my face into something that didn't scream, "Emotional breakdown in progress." "Emma?" His voice carried through the house, warm and concerned. "How did the shower go?" I heard his footsteps crossing the hardwood floor, probably following the trail of wrapping paper and gift bags toward the living room. I should clean up this mess before he saw it, should put on a brave face and pretend everything was fine like I always did. But I was so tired of pretending. "In here," I called back, my voice smaller than I intended. David appeared in the doorway, still wearing his business suit, his tie loosened around his neck. His expression shifted from tired to concerned the moment he saw me sitting on the floor next to the broken stroller. "Hey," he said softly, crossing the room in 3 quick strides. "What's wrong? What happened?" I gestured helplessly at the stroller, feeling fresh tears threatening to spill over. My sister's idea of a baby gift. David's jaw tightened as he took in the obviously damaged stroller, the torn fabric, the detached wheel. "She gave you a broken stroller?" "She said it fits my life perfectly," I whispered, alone and falling apart. For a moment, David didn't say anything. He just knelt down beside me on the floor and pulled me into his arms, letting me cry against his shoulder. He smelled like airplane air and coffee, familiar and comforting. "I'm sorry," he murmured into my hair. "I should have been here. I should have cancelled the trip." "It wouldn't have mattered," I said, pulling back to look at him. "They would have just been more careful about what they said in front of you. This is who they are, David. This is who they've always been." He cupped my face in his hands, his thumbs brushing away my tears. "This is not who you are, though. You know that, right? You're not alone, and you're definitely not falling apart." I wanted to believe him, God, how I wanted to believe him. But 32 years of being told I wasn't enough had worn grooves in my brain that were hard to escape. "Let me take a look at this thing," David said, standing up and examining the stroller more closely. "Sometimes broken things just need the right touch." I watched him circle the stroller, his engineer's mind already working on the problem. This was so typical of him, trying to fix things, trying to make everything better. It was one of the things I loved most about him, even when I suspected some things were beyond repair. "You know," he said, running his hands along the frame, "this is actually a really expensive model, or it was anyway. This is the base for the new Techstride series." I frowned. "The what?" "Techstride. It's this revolutionary smart stroller system that's supposed to launch next year. My company's been tracking the development because we're interested in the IoT applications." He paused, examining something near the handle. "Emma, this looks like it might be a prototype." "A prototype?" I struggled to my feet, my pregnant belly making the movement awkward. How would Sarah get her hands on a prototype? David didn't answer immediately. He was focused on something near the base of the handle, his fingers tracing along what looked like a seamless panel of black plastic. "David?" I pressed. "What are you looking at?" He glanced up at me, and there was something strange in his expression, something that looked almost like recognition. "There's a panel here," he said slowly. "It's not obvious unless you know what you're looking for, but—" He pressed down on a specific spot, and I heard a soft click. The panel slid open, revealing a small digital display and a single black button. "What the hell?" I breathed. David stared at the hidden panel for a long moment, then looked up at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "Emma," he said carefully, "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me." My heart started beating faster. "Okay. Where exactly did Sarah say she got this stroller?" "A garage sale this morning. Why? David, you're scaring me." He stood up slowly, his eyes never leaving mine. "Because this isn't just any prototype. This is the alpha model. There are only 3 in existence, and I know exactly where all 3 of them are supposed to be." The room felt like it was tilting. "I don't understand." "The first one is in our R&D lab. The second one is in the CEO's office for demonstration purposes." He paused, his finger hovering over the black button. "And the third one was given to our head of product development to take home for real-world testing." My mouth went dry. David, what are you saying? I'm saying your sister didn't get this at a garage sale. His voice was very quiet now. I'm saying someone gave this to her specifically to give to you. Someone who knew exactly what it was and what it could do. He pressed the button. What happened next defied everything I thought I knew about broken things, about my family, and about my own life. The stroller began to change, panels shifting and components extending, the broken wheel reattaching itself with a soft mechanical whir. The torn fabric wasn't torn at all. It was a protective covering that retracted to reveal pristine, high-tech material underneath. Within 30 seconds, the broken garage sale stroller had transformed into something that looked like it belonged in a science fiction movie. LED lights glowed softly along the frame. A digital display showed temperature and air quality readings, and the whole thing hummed with quiet, expensive-sounding technology. I stood there with my mouth open, watching this miracle of engineering unfold in my living room, and David's words finally sank in. Head of product development. Someone who knew exactly what it was. Someone who had access to one of only 3 prototypes in existence. I looked up at my husband, and in his eyes, I saw the truth I'd been hiding from him for 3 years. He knew. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. David stood there holding the button, the transformed stroller humming softly between us, and I felt like my entire world was reshaping itself just as dramatically as the prototype had moments before. You know, I whispered. It wasn't a question. His smile was gentle, tinged with something that might have been relief. Emma Chen Martinez, lead product developer, TechStride Innovation Lab. Graduated summa cum laude from MIT with a double major in mechanical engineering and computer science. Holds 14 patents in smart mobility technology. Currently earning $230,000 annually, which is actually $15,000 more than her husband makes, not that anyone's counting. My legs gave out. I sank back onto the couch, staring at him. How long have you known? Since about 6 months after we started dating, he said, sitting down beside me. I was reviewing resumes for a consulting position with our product development team, and there you were. Emma Chen, brilliant engineer who'd revolutionized 3 different product lines at her previous company. The same Emma who'd been telling me she worked in administrative support at a tech firm. I can explain. You don't need to explain anything. He reached for my hands. I understood why you did it. What I couldn't understand was why you felt like you had to keep doing it, even after we got married, even now. Tears burned my eyes. Because of this, I gestured toward where my family had been sitting hours earlier. Because of today. Because every time I achieve something, every time I succeed, it just gives them more ammunition, more ways to tear me down. So you hid it from everyone? Even me? Not from you, I said quickly. I mean, I never lied to you about who I am. I never corrected your assumptions about what I do. And when you started talking about your work, about the company, I realized how complicated it would get if you knew I was working on competing products. David was quiet for a moment, processing this. TechStride isn't a competitor, Emma. We're a subsidiary. My head snapped up. What? Johnson & Associates acquired TechStride 8 months ago. We're your parent company now. His expression was carefully neutral, which means, technically, I'm your boss's boss's boss. Oh, God. I buried my face in my hands. This is a nightmare. This is an actual nightmare. Why? Because you're married to someone in upper management. because you're incredibly successful, because you've been lying to your family about being some kind of underachiever when you're actually one of the most innovative engineers in the country, because Sarah knows. The words exploded out of me. Don't you see? She didn't get this at a garage sale. Someone told her exactly what it was and exactly what would happen when you pressed that button. Someone who knew you'd recognize it, knew you'd figure out the connection. David's expression shifted, understanding dawning. Who else knows about your real job? Nobody. I've been so careful. I use my maiden name at work. I park in the guest lot so no one sees my car. I never talk about it. I trailed off, a horrible thought occurring to me. Oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no. What? My mother has a key to our house. She came early to help set up, remember? She was here alone for 20 minutes before anyone else arrived. We both turned to look toward David's study, where he kept work documents, his laptop, company correspondence. The door was slightly ajar, and I was almost certain I'd seen him close it before he left this morning. David stood up slowly. Stay here. David, please, just stay here. I watched him walk toward his study, my heart hammering against my ribs. Through the crack in the door, I could see his desk, usually meticulously organized, looking slightly disturbed. Papers that had been in neat stacks were slightly askew. His laptop was closed, but the power light indicated it had been recently used. Emma, David called from the study, his voice carefully controlled. Can you come here, please? I heaved myself off the couch and waddled toward the study, dreading what I might find. David was standing behind his desk, holding a folder marked Text-Ride, Confidential Personnel Files. This was in my bottom drawer, he said quietly. Under lock and key, or it was supposed to be. The folder was open to a page with my photo paper clipped to the corner. My real resume, my real salary information, my real list of achievements and patents. Everything I'd spent 3 years hiding from my family laid out in corporate black and white. The lock's been picked, David continued, running his finger along the damaged mechanism. Professionally, by the look of it. This wasn't a desperate search. Someone knew exactly what they were looking for and where to find it. I sank into the chair across from his desk. She saw everything. Who? Your mother? No, I said, pieces clicking together in my mind. Sarah. Mom found the information, but Sarah's the one who put together the plan. Mom's not that subtle. This whole thing, the broken stroller, the timing, making sure you'd be here to see it transform. I looked up at him. Sarah wanted you to reveal the truth in front of everyone. But why? What does she gain from exposing you? I laughed, but there was no humour in it. You don't know my sister. She spent her entire life being the golden child, the successful one, the one my parents brag about. And suddenly she finds out that her loser older sister is actually more successful than she's ever been, that I make more money than her lawyer husband, that I have patents and recognition and everything she's always believed belonged to her. David sat down heavily in his desk chair. So she wanted to humiliate you, force you to admit you'd been lying to everyone. More than that, she wanted to prove that even my success is somehow fake or wrong. Look at how she presented it, giving me something broken, making jokes about how it fits my life. Even when it transformed into something amazing, the narrative was already set. I'm the person who gets broken things. I'm the person who's alone and falling apart. Except you're not, aren't I? I gestured around the study at the evidence of my deception scattered across David's desk. Look at this mess. Look at what I've done. I've been lying to everyone for years, even to you in a way. No, David said firmly. You've been protecting yourself. There's a difference. Before I could respond, the doorbell rang. We both froze, looking at each other. Expecting someone? David asked. I shook my head. All the shower guests left hours ago. The bell rang again, followed by insistent knocking. Then I heard my mother's voice calling through the door. "Emma, Emma, open up. We need to talk." "Shit," I breathed. David stood up. "I'll get it." "No." I struggled to my feet. "This is my mess. I need to handle it." But David was already moving toward the front door, and I followed behind him as quickly as my pregnant waddle would allow. Through the window, I could see both my mother and Sarah standing on the porch, Sarah holding what looked like a manila envelope. David unlocked the door and opened it, his expression politely neutral. "Mrs. Johnson, Sarah, this is unexpected. We need to speak with Emma," my mother said, trying to see around David into the house. "It's important." Actually," Sarah said, stepping forward with that confident smile she'd always worn when she knew she held all the cards, "we need to speak with both of you about Emma's little hobby." "My what?" I moved to stand beside David, one hand instinctively going to my belly. Sarah held up the envelope. "We know, Emma. We know about your job, your salary, your patents. We know you've been lying to us for years." "I haven't been lying," I said quietly. "I just haven't been sharing." "Same thing," my mother snapped. "Do you have any idea how embarrassing this is? How it looks? Our daughter sneaking around, pretending to be something she's not, making us look like fools?" "How does my success make you look like fools?" I asked. "Because we've been telling people you work as an assistant," Sarah exploded. "Do you know how many conversations I've had where I felt sorry for you? Where I defended your choices to live this simple little life? And meanwhile, you're out there making more money than my husband, working on technology that's going to be featured in Time magazine, holding patents that companies are paying millions to license." The pieces clicked together. "You read the whole file." "Every page," Sarah confirmed. "Very enlightening, especially the part about the upcoming IPO and how your stock options are going to be worth approximately $4 million when the company goes public next year." David's hand found mine and squeezed gently. I hadn't even told him about the stock options yet. "So here's what's going to happen," Sarah continued, her voice taking on the tone she'd used when we were kids, and she was explaining why I owed her my allowance money. "You're going to help us out. Mom needs a new car, and I think it's time you contributed to the family the way someone with your resources should be contributing." "Excuse me?" I stared at her. "You've been selfish long enough," my mother added, "hoarding your success while your family struggles. Sarah's husband just started his practice. They have medical school loans to pay off. And my car is 12 years old, Emma. 12 years. And let's talk about the lies," Sarah said. "The deception. What do you think people are going to say when they find out you've been pretending to be poor while secretly being rich? What do you think that's going to do to your reputation, your marriage?" I felt David tense beside me, but his voice remained level. "Are you threatening my wife?" "I'm not threatening anyone," Sarah said sweetly. "I'm just pointing out that family should support each other. And Emma has clearly been in a position to support us for years. It's time to make that right." "How much?" I asked quietly. "What?" "How much money do you want?" Sarah's eyes lit up. "Well, I think 50,000 would be a good start, for the loans. And Mom's car, maybe another 30 for something reliable." $80,000, I said. "It's not that much," my mother said defensively. "Not for someone in your position." "You're right," I said. "It's not that much for someone in my position." They both smiled, sensing victory. "But here's the thing," I continued, my voice growing stronger. "Someone in my position doesn't just have money. Someone in my position has options. Someone in my position has lawyers and accountants and influence and connections." Sarah's smile faltered slightly. Someone in my position can afford to cut toxic people out of their life and never look back, I said. Someone in my position doesn't need approval from people who only see value in what they can take. Emma, my mother said warningly. No, I interrupted. I'm done. I'm done pretending to be less than I am to make you feel better about yourselves. I'm done accepting scraps of affection in exchange for hiding my accomplishments. And I'm definitely done being manipulated and extorted by people who are supposed to love me. You can't just cut us off, Sarah said, but there was uncertainty in her voice now. Actually, I can. Someone in my position has excellent lawyers who can make sure that someone who breaks into private property and steals confidential documents faces appropriate consequences. We didn't steal anything, my mother protested. You picked a lock and removed confidential corporate documents from a secured location, David said calmly. That's breaking and entering, theft of proprietary information, and potentially corporate espionage. The penalties for that include significant jail time. You wouldn't, Sarah whispered. Try me, I said. You want to know what someone in my position does when they're threatened? They protect themselves, they set boundaries, and they don't negotiate with people who've proven they can't be trusted. Emma, please, my mother said, and for the first time I heard something like genuine emotion in her voice. We're family. No, I said sadly. Family doesn't do this to each other. Family doesn't break into your house, steal your private information, and then use it to humiliate and blackmail you. Family celebrates your success, not exploit it. I stepped back from the door, closer to David's warmth and support. I want you to leave now, I said. Both of you, and I don't want you to contact me again. When this baby is born, they're going to grow up in a family that loves and supports them unconditionally. They're not going to learn that their worth is measured by how much they can give to people who will never give anything back. You'll regret this, Sarah said, her mask finally slipping to reveal the anger underneath. You can't just pretend we don't exist. Watch me, I said. David stepped forward then, his presence suddenly much more imposing. I think you should leave now, before we involve the police. For a moment I thought Sarah might argue further, but something in David's expression must have convinced her that we were serious. She turned on her heel and stalked toward the car, my mother trailing behind her with one last reproachful look. We stood in the doorway and watched them drive away, my mother's 12-year-old car disappearing into the evening darkness. Well, David said finally, closing the door and locking it behind us. That was something. I turned to look at him, suddenly exhausted. Are you okay with this? With all of it? With me lying about my job? With cutting off my family? With the fact that I apparently make more money than you and never mentioned it? He pulled me into his arms, careful of my pregnant belly. Emma, I fell in love with you because you're brilliant and kind and funny and beautiful. Finding out you're even more successful than I imagined doesn't change any of that. It just makes me proud that someone so amazing chose to be with me. Even though I lied? You didn't lie. You protected yourself from people who've spent their entire lives making you feel small. That's not lying. That's survival. I leaned against his chest, feeling some of the tension leave my body for the first time in hours. What happens now? Now we go back to that incredible smart stroller, we read the manual, and we figure out how to work all the fancy features, David said. And then we start planning for our baby to grow up in a family where success is celebrated, where honesty is valued, and where no one has to hide who they are to be loved. And my family? Your real family is right here, he said, his hand covering mine on my belly. The rest is just people who share your DNA. I pulled back to look at him. No regrets? About any of this? Only one, he said seriously. My heart clenched. What? I regret that I didn't press that button sooner, he said with a grin. Do you have any idea how long I've been waiting for you to trust me enough to tell me the truth about your job? I was starting to think I'd have to accidentally leave text-dried documents lying around the house. I laughed, surprising myself. You wouldn't. Emma, I've been bragging about my brilliant wife to my colleagues for 3 years. They all think I'm married to some kind of superhuman genius based on the stories I tell about you. Finding out I'm actually married to Emma Chen, the Emma Chen, just confirmed what I already knew. Which is that I'm the luckiest man alive, he said, and kissed me. 6 months later, our daughter was born on a Tuesday morning in May. We named her Hope, and she came into the world in the most advanced, smart stroller ever designed, surrounded by people who loved her unconditionally. The text-dried IPO exceeded all projections. My stock options were actually worth closer to $6 million, not 4. David and I used the money to set up a college fund for Hope and to start a foundation that provides STEM education opportunities for underrepresented kids. We never heard from my mother or Sarah again, though I heard through mutual acquaintances that Sarah's husband's practice was doing well, and my mother had managed to buy a new car after all. Sometimes, late at night when I'm feeding Hope, I think about the baby shower that changed everything, about the broken stroller that wasn't broken at all, just waiting for the right person to press the right button at the right moment. I think about how sometimes the best gift isn't what's given to you, but realizing you don't need their approval to be whole. And I think about how Hope will grow up knowing that her worth isn't measured by what she can give to people who will never give anything back, but by the love she shares with people who see her exactly as she is and celebrate every single thing that makes her unique. The stroller sits in our garage now, fully functional and occasionally still surprising us with new features. Hope loves the gentle vibration mode and the soft music it plays. But mostly, I love what it represents. The moment I stopped hiding who I was and started living the life I deserved. Sometimes broken things don't need to be fixed. Sometimes they just need the right person to see their true potential and push the right button to help them transform. Have you ever felt like you had to hide your success to keep peace with family? Sometimes protecting yourself isn't selfish, it's survival. And sometimes the family you choose is more important than the family you're born into. Hope is sleeping peacefully now, surrounded by love and possibility. And for the first time in my life, I'm not afraid of who I am or what I'm capable of becoming. That's the gift I want to give her, the knowledge that she never has to make herself smaller to make other people comfortable, that her light doesn't dim anyone else's, that she can be brilliant and successful and loved all at the same time. The stroller hums softly in the corner, ready for tomorrow's adventure. And so are we.